I knew something was wrong when my fingerprint wouldn't open the office door Sunday at 6:43 a.m. because I'd never left Friday night. My bag was still under the desk. My hoodie still damp from the HVAC leak nobody fixed. The coffee filter I'd rinsed in the damn bathroom sink was still perched on a mug that said "Hustle Harder," the company's onboarding gift, like a middle finger in ceramic. But the biometric scanner flashed red, like it suddenly forgot I existed. That was their first move: erase the ghost before they kill the host. I stood there in the hallway, still wearing the same sweatpants I'd slept in, watching the door deny me entry to the system I'd practically rewritten from the inside. For the past 9 weekends straight, I'd been feeding code into their broken infrastructure like a priest praying over a dying engine. Nobody asked me to. Nobody paid me to. But I did it anyway, because I knew what I was building wasn't just a feature. It was a weapon. Not one for the market, but for me. 3 months ago, the CTO, Jason, the kind of man who uses grindset unironically and thinks empathy is an API he just hasn't integrated yet, stood up in an all-hands and said, "We don't do overtime. We do ownership." The room laughed, except me. I just wrote that line down and saved it into a markdown file labeled Exhibit A, because Jason didn't know I was logging everything. Every commit, every rollback, every Slack ping at 2:04 a.m. asking me to just take a quick peek at the staging env. I recorded it, indexed it, built a time-stamped archive of unpaid labor so surgically organized it could qualify for medical reimbursement. Buried deep inside that codebase was the real masterpiece, an optimizer that turned their clunky Frankenstein CI/CD pipeline into a lightning bolt. No announcement, no demo. I just let them bask in the new performance boost like it was God blessing their DevOps. They didn't ask why it got faster. Jason didn't ask how I fixed the recursive loop bug that had been haunting our production queue for 6 months. Just updated his LinkedIn headline to Scaling Engineer of Culture and posted a thread about grit. And maybe that would have been the end of it, if it weren't for the invoice, which he never saw coming, and which hadn't even been sent yet. Because first, I needed to finish what I started. And to do that, I needed to get back inside. Getting back in wasn't the problem. I had root. What Jason and his cult of unpaid ambition never grasped was that while they were busy measuring GitHub streaks and quoting Steve Jobs like scripture, I was quietly embedding hooks. Deep ones. Not malware, nothing malicious, nothing criminal. Just insurance. Let's call it a contingency architecture. So when my fingerprint failed and the badge access fizzled, I walked across the parking lot to my car, opened my trunk, pulled out a battered Lenovo ThinkPad with a missing N key and more emotional baggage than I had. I hadn't used it in months. That was the point. No traces, no audit trail, no SSO, just one offline device preloaded with my escape hatch. I tethered to my phone, slid into a booth at the Waffle Zone down the street, ordered bacon I wouldn't eat, and opened the backdoor SSH. Their system purred open like a throat waiting for a knife. Within seconds, I was back inside the same pipelines they thought I'd been locked out of. I could see the live deploy logs blinking green from a commit someone else had pushed, using my optimizer. Still running, still saving their asses in real time, still unnamed, still mine. And that's when it hit me. They didn't just take me off the clock. They were preparing to take credit. Jason's newest blog post, titled 10x Dev Culture, Why Output Matters More Than Input, scheduled to publish Monday. It included a screenshot of our updated metrics. Improved throughput, lower error rates, deployment time slashed by 42%. The line beneath it read, "Proof that leadership vision beats brute force coding." He was using my optimizer as a case study for his leadership skills. And here's the kicker. He didn't even know what it was. He thought it was some cleaner code. No one had actually opened the module files because they trusted me, because I shipped silently and never asked for recognition, because I was safe. So I renamed the optimizer, not the code, just the file, from core pipeline refactor final v3 JS to patent protected by author do not touch JS. Then I set a flag, nothing destructive, just a kill switch. A silent warning in the logs that would trigger a rollback if anyone modified it without my token. It was clean, legal, and irreversible, and I logged every unpaid hour I had poured into that system, every undocumented feature, every favor, Every late-night code resurrection I did while their senior devs were at Burning Man or WFH from Aspen. The total bill, $147,082.37. Filed under Post-Standard Labor Reclamation. Subheader, per keystroke accounting model, filed patent hash pending. Jason was about to get an invoice that would either bankrupt his pride or bankrupt his entire stack. But first, I wanted him to see me. One more time, while the lights were still on. Monday morning, I walked in through the front door like nothing happened. No badge, no drama. Just hailed the cleaning crew at 6:01 a.m. Smiled at the front desk like my name wasn't red flagged on their offboarding list. Slipped into my pod station like a ghost that refused to be exorcised. My monitor was gone. So was my chair. All that was left was the company-issued mug with the chipped rim, the same one I'd caught Jason drinking from last month when he forgot his own. I picked it up, turned it over. Someone had written on the bottom in Sharpie, "No one is irreplaceable." Cute. Except I wasn't just irreplaceable. I was indigestible. They tried to swallow me. Now I was stuck in their throat. By 8:20 a.m., the sales team rolled in, high on stale espresso and whatever weekend retreat nonsense they'd been fed by HR. I got a few weird looks, one "Wait, did you quit?" from Curtis in finance and a tight-lipped smile from Lee, the only PM in the building with a soul. Then Jason walked in. Bluetooth earpiece, morning smug. Wearing one of those quarter-zip tech vests like a walking TED talk. Stopped mid-stride when he saw me. His mouth did this twitch thing, half confusion, half calculation. Didn't security, we thought. He fumbled, voice trailing off like his brain hit a null pointer. "I'm just grabbing my notes," I said. "Thought I'd be professional about it." He blinked. "Well, okay, yeah, sure. Of course, totally." But the tremor in his eye told me he knew something was off. He just didn't know how off. That came at 11:14 a.m., right after he wrapped up his Monday check-in and started bragging to the board over Zoom about the breakthrough weekend refactor. I timed it perfectly. Mid-sentence, mid-brag, the system dashboard behind him flickered, and then turned red. A simple message scrolled across the big display screen in front of the whole exec team. Unauthorized use of proprietary algorithm detected. License expired. Optimization withdrawn. Charts tanked in real time. Load times tripled. Queues started failing. Build jobs stalled. Jason spun toward the screen like he could intimidate it into behaving. Then his laptop pinged. "You have one new email." Subject: Outstanding Invoice Patent 934X17A. Per keystroke performance optimization amount due. $147,082.37 from me CC, legal at, HR at, board at, TechCrunch tips at. His face went white. Then red. Then something between the two, a kind of sickly coral that only appears when a man realizes his legacy is built on stolen scaffolding. "Did you do this?" he said, voice quiet. I stood, took a breath, stepped close enough that only he could hear what came next. "I logged every second of every unpaid weekend you called industry standard. I built the thing you're standing on. And now, I'm billing you for it." Started to stammer something about IP ownership, employment contracts, loyalty. But I cut him off. "You said ownership matters more than hours, right? So own this." Then I turned and walked out, the echo of my boots following me all the way to the elevator, where 3 interns were watching the dashboard flicker like the apocalypse was beginning. One of them whispered, "Dude, that was badass." I didn't respond. I was already drafting the press release. The press release hit at 2:06 p.m. Short, surgical, lethal. Former engineer files patent-backed claim against redacted following unpaid labor and unauthorized commercial use of proprietary optimizer. Estimated performance gain, 42%. Estimated theft, measurable. I didn't leak it to TechCrunch directly. I let them come sniffing after I forwarded the invoice to legal with just 3 words in the body. Per keystroke, Jason. 3:00 p.m. The company's Slack was a forest fire. I still had read-only access to a few channels, thanks to a rogue automation script they forgot to kill, so I sat a quiet booth in the same waffle zone and watched it all unravel like a cashmere scarf in a shredder. Hash General had gone full meltdown. Who the hell is patent 934X? Did we use that thing in prod? Jason said it was just a refactor. Bro, this wasn't open source. By 3:12, someone dropped a screenshot from Jenkins showing the error log. License check failed. Unauthorized commercial use. And at 3:27, the VP of Engineering, Angela, who once told me I was too intense about syntax, posted a panicked message in #eng leads. I need all commits from the last 60 days audited. And someone call legal. Now. That's when I got a text, not from Jason, from his assistant. Claire, 24-year-old with 3 monitors and a moral compass. Claire, 3:31 p.m., you're about to get a meeting invite. Say yes, he's sweating bullets. I owe you one for the time you helped me debug that OAuth disaster in December. Also, that was a baller move, respect. The invite came 5 minutes later. Subject, quick chat, location, CEO's office. Time, 4:00 p.m. sharp. Required attendees, me, Jason, legal. One very nervous-looking CTO in waiting. I arrived at 4:01 just to watch him squirm. Jason stood as I walked in like I was royalty or a bomb. He gestured to the chair across from him. Please, I sat, crossed my legs, waited. He started with flattery. Of course he did. You've always been brilliant. Unconventional, sure, but sharp. We recognize that. Maybe things got mishandled, like my weekends, like my work, like my spine after 3 years of ergonomic lies and $2 pizza. Let me guess, I said. You want me to sign an NDA, drop the claim, and in exchange you give me a glowing letter of recommendation, and maybe a payout low enough to be insulting, but high enough to feel like guilt. He blinked. The lawyer, Sandra, high bun, shark eyes, shifted in her chair. That's not exactly inaccurate, Jason muttered. I smiled. Then I dropped the real bomb. I've already received 3 acquisition offers. 2 from firms you pitched to last quarter, and 1 from your ex-CTO, Ben. Remember him? The guy you forced out after you streamlined his department. Turns out he's got money and spite. Jason's throat made a dry, clicking sound. I leaned forward. This optimizer isn't just a script. It's a framework. And I own it. If you don't license it from me, your entire system collapses under the weight of its own inefficiency. You don't need me back, you need to pay me forward. Sandra looked at him. If she has a valid patent and the audit confirms use, she can sue for damages triple the base rate under IP law. Plus pain and suffering if I know the law, Jason snapped. But you don't know me, I said. Not really. I stood. Here's my counteroffer, you pay the invoice. Publicly credit the optimizer. Issue an apology, or I accept Ben's offer. License the tech to every competitor you're terrified of. Jason looked like he was going to be sick. Sandra looked like she wanted to hire me. I walked to the door. Paused. Oh, and Jason? Your article about 10x developers? I looked over my shoulder, smiled. I left a comment. You might want to read it before the board does. Then I left. Elevator down. Email open. I hadn't even started the real revenge yet. The board meeting was scheduled for Thursday, but by Tuesday afternoon, they were already circling like buzzards around a wounded CEO. The first shot across the bow came from Raj, the CFO, a man who could smell liability like a bloodhound on Adderall. Replied all to the thread Jason stupidly started titled False Claims by Former Engineer with one beautifully damning question. Can someone confirm exactly when we authorized commercial use of the optimizer she built, and whether we filed that usage under R&D, licensing, or, God forbid, internal tooling? 20 minutes later, there was still no answer. Because there wasn't one. See, while Jason was busy building his empire of jargon and ping-pong tables, I was building something else. A paper trail so immaculate it would make a forensic accountant weep. Git logs, email timestamps, Slack messages with just enough "can you take a look at this?" Flavor to imply informal labor, but never a contract or clause in sight. And that optimizer, fully documented, time-stamped, versioned. I'd registered the provisional patent 3 days before I ever deployed it to staging. I even had an email from Jason himself that said, "Just throw it in prod and we'll clean up later." It was the digital equivalent of "Sure, officer, I did break into that house, but the door was open and I really needed a couch." And now the house was on fire. That night, I got another message from Claire. Claire, 9:14 p.m. You're officially a ghost story now. Engineers are whispering about the keystroke invoice like it's folklore. Someone photoshopped you onto a Game of Thrones throne made out of keyboards. I chuckled. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. They still had my name buried. Still had that product sprint labeled as Team Optimization Refactor, like I'd been one of 5 monkeys at typewriters rather than the only one who understood the machine they were duct taping together. So I made a decision. I pulled out the kill switch license, not the soft warning they'd already seen, the real one. At exactly 6 a.m., Wednesday morning, right as their East Coast clients were booting up and expecting zero latency reports from the system I had built, the following message greeted them. Error 935, Core Optimization Module unlicensed. Execution halted. For support, contact patent owner at my domain. Their system didn't crash, slowed. Not to a halt, oh no, that would have been a mercy. I let it crawl, a slow, brutal death by latency. APIs lagging, reports timing out, live dashboards freezing mid-load. The Slack exploded again. Someone pasted a screenshot of a customer complaint that simply read, "Is your software powered by hamsters?" I gave them 6 hours to suffer. Then I emailed Jason a licensing agreement. $200,000 upfront, $10,000 per month, and full public attribution under my name in every deployment log moving forward. 5 minutes later, I got a Venmo request from Claire, $4.20 for popcorn. Subject line read, "Watching Jason try to negotiate with the ghost of your code." I paid it instantly, because now it was time to go public. I didn't leak the story to the media. I sold it. TechCrunch, Wired, even one of those startup gossip substacks that lives off corporate blood and unredacted Slack threads. By noon Wednesday, they were all bidding for exclusives like tech vultures at an IPO funeral. I gave it to the one who titled her pitch, the woman who invoiced her CEO into oblivion. She got everything, screenshots of the invoice, my deployment logs, time-stamped keystroke tracker, and the cherry on top, Jason's voice recording saying, "Paid weekends are the standard. It's the cost of belonging." She dropped the story Thursday morning at 8:01 a.m. By 8:17, it was trending. By 8:32, the board had locked Jason out of his email. By 9 o'clock, I was getting DMs from engineers across 3 continents asking if I was hiring. But it wasn't the fame I wanted. Not yet. It was her. Angela, VP of Engineering, the one who told me I lacked collaborative softness after I flagged that one of her pet devs had pushed a memory leak that cost the company $30K in cloud fees. The same Angela who nodded along when Jason mocked my optimizer as just some clever girl math. She'd spent months parroting my results, collecting the credit, copy-pasting my commits into her Jira epics with notes like final tweaks by team, as if the team had done anything but stare blankly while I rebuilt the data queue from scratch. And now she was the last one left defending Jason's decisions in front of the board, so I sent her a gift, a printed copy of the license agreement they'd just signed, framed, wrapped in velvet ribbon. Inside the envelope, I left a note. 5 words, "Final tweak by solo engineer." At 10:41 a.m., she posted a long thread on LinkedIn. At Company, we believe in accountability and in centering the voices of engineers who innovate against all odds. As we move forward into this next chapter, we recognize past oversights and commit to doing better, starting with giving credit where it's long overdue. My name was finally on the GodM product page, in bold, with a clickable link to the patent. And beneath it, glowing paragraph, system-wide performance optimizer engineered by my name, whose contribution remains foundational to our current infrastructure. Angela's name, nowhere near it. Jason's, gone from the site completely. But I wasn't done. I logged into the system one last time, just to make sure the attribution log was hard-coded in every release note, every endpoint description, every instance the optimizer ran. Because if they were going to keep running my blood-sweat algorithm, they were going to remember whose fingers bled it into existence. And then I saw it. A new variable hidden in the latest update from someone I didn't recognize. Const thanks to her equals true buried in the code. I stared at it, then smiled. Revenge is nice. But legacy is cleaner. Friday morning, I got a calendar invite titled "Coffee," no sender, no location, just coordinates. I tapped the link. It opened a GPS marker to a rooftop bar I used to haunt before the burnout set in, before Jason started sending me Slack pings at 11 p.m. with quick fixes that bled into sunrise. Before I started sleeping under my desk and dreaming in YAML. I showed up anyway, wore black, no makeup, laptop in my bag just in case. He was already there. Ben, the former CTO, one Jason gutted like a Thanksgiving bird when the board wanted a pivot. He looked older, thinner too, but not weaker, just tempered. Didn't think you'd come, he said, nodding toward the stool. I needed to see if you still had your spine, I replied. He smiled without humor. They gave it back once Jason's stock tanked. The boards were writing the past like it's a damn Pixar script. Apparently, I always believed in you. I snorted. You didn't know, but I do now. He slid a folder across the table. Inside, a term sheet. Equity, title, full IP control. We're rebuilding. Real engineers, real credit, no foosball tables, no founders who read 0 to 1 and think it's a personality. You want in? I flipped to the last page. My name was already printed in the signature line. You don't even want to negotiate. Ben leaned in. You already did, publicly. Brilliantly. Hell, you showed your story at a private equity dinner last night. Half the room wants to be you. The other half wants to hire you. I didn't say yes, not yet. Instead, I pulled out my phone, opened the public Git repo. I'd started uploading a stripped-down version of the optimizer to one anyone could use, license-free. The README began with, built on unpaid weekends, owned in daylight. The stars were climbing fast. Jason had tried to bury me in backlog. It built a monument out of every line they left unpaid. Ben noticed. You're not going to stop, are you? I shook my head. Never. We drank in silence. Just coffee, no toasts, no victory speeches. But I saw it in his eyes. Fear, respect, both. The way someone looks at the match that burned down their house but kept them warm while the new one was built. I got up to leave. Send me a cleaner contract, I said. Ben raised a brow. What's wrong with that one? Doesn't have a clause about keystrokes. I turned before he could answer. The elevator was waiting, and I had one more stop to make because revenge was done. But justice was still coding. The last move wasn't loud. It wasn't even legal, technically, not in the courtroom sense. But in the moral register, it rang like a church bell. That afternoon, I logged into the system one final time. Not their system. Mine. Open version of the optimizer, now mirrored on thousands of forks, translated into 5 languages, benchmarked by every tech blogger who ever doubted a solo engineer, could tilt the axis of performance by sheer force of will. I went into the back end, into the part of the code only I understood fully, because no one else had written it while bleeding coffee and unpaid rage through their fingertips at 3:49 a.m. And I pushed one last update. A feature flag. Attribution equals false. Function degrade gracefully. No crashes, no meltdowns, just mediocrity. Any company that tried to strip the credit, their installs would silently downgrade over time. The optimizer would still work, but like a tired genius pretending to be average. No logs, no errors, just a slow spiral back into everything they'd been before I touched their code. Bloated, laggy, obsolete. Within days, I got the emails. Startups, agencies, freelance CTOs asking why their systems suddenly felt like they were dragging bricks uphill. I replied once, honor the creator or live in her absence. I didn't need to sue anymore. They were policing each other. One firm even started a Slack channel called #code credit mandatory. Jason, he resurfaced on LinkedIn weeks later. New profile, new venture. Some nonsense about AI-enhanced spirituality, kind of cult you build when every bridge you burned refused to collapse. I didn't block him. I wanted him to see me. The keynote I gave at DEF CON, standing in front of 5,000 devs as I demoed the architecture I built while my spine was still healing from his deadlines. The hoodie I wore, black, minimal, had just 3 words embroidered on the sleeve, per keystroke. People started buying replicas. A whole movement erupted around it. Engineers billing their hours, tracking their labor, demanding to be seen. It wasn't about me anymore. It was about all of us who were told to stay quiet, be grateful, take pizza instead of pay, ownership instead of equity. They called it the keystroke doctrine. And yeah, my name's in the patent. But the real reward, every time a girl fresh out of boot camp walks into a dev job with that hoodie on and the CTO flinches, that's legacy. And Jason? He can keep his TED talks. I built something that actually works.